Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to our temporary classroom while our classroom downstairs is being worked on. We're using this space up here to be able to host our classes. So welcome to our classroom. Welcome to today's class, which is our Pali Canon and English study group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is after our meditation, because we start with each class with a meditation. I'll guide you guys in breathing mindfulness meditation. The teachings of the Buddha are here to help you train your mind to get to the enlightened mental state where your mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy permanently. It's a permanent mental state that you attain during this life where you no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. Meditation is one aspect of that training, but there's other things as well. That's why we study the original teachings of the Buddha in order to help you cultivate wisdom of how to actually train your mind and purify the mind to the point where you can experience this enlightened mental state, where you can experience peace and joy. The mind will be focused. You'll have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Your personal and professional relationships will really be blossoming because you won't be bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships any longer. You'll get to the point where your mind's not even in a bad mood any longer. The causes and conditions that produce a bad mood have been uprooted and eliminated out of the mind. So meditation is an important component of that. So that's why we start each class with a meditation. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be chanting to ease us into the meditation. And you guys are welcome to join into the chants if you like. I have the chants on a laminated sheet over there on the table. You're welcome to get those. There's plenty of them over there for everyone. And you guys are welcome to chant along if you like. The chanting helps to ease the mind down into the meditation, and you actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. When you're chanting, it's not a rite or ritual or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory, because every 2 weeks, the Buddha would bring his students together and they would recite his teachings word for word for word. This is how chanting came about, because nothing was written down during his lifetime. So they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. The technology to write things down didn't exist in that region of the world, so he taught orally, and then they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So there isn't anything mystical or magical about the chanting. The way that it came about was purely to be able to commit the teachings to memory. If you see these chants on the sheet, you're going to see a lot of admiration and respect for the Buddha, a lot of gratitude for him. And the reason why is because his students learning how to move from this anger and sadness and frustration and these other feelings to the peace and the joy, you would have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. Yeah, you guys are welcome to get those. Go for it. So these chants were most likely actually not created by the Buddha himself. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death. Because if you read these chants with this gratitude and respect, a Buddha wouldn't walk around and teach his students to chant these things to him, because he would have eliminated his ego or his arrogance, his pride. He wouldn't have been walking around saying, "Here, chant these things to me in order to respect me and honor me." So these chants were most likely created by his students, either during his life or after his death. And nowadays we chant them in order to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Then after the chanting, you're going to hear me come in with some guidance. I'll be guiding you during the meditation. And then afterwards, there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just meditating together. I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. We've got fans on. There's going to be cars going by. There might be a dog barking or a bird chirping or something like that. But quietness is not permanent. You're going to hear sounds from time to time. So if you train your mind to not be affected by impermanence, that things are constantly changing, then you can reside peaceful and joyful. If you have a craving for silence, then when you hear a sound, you'll be agitated or annoyed. So you would like to get to the point where you're unaffected by the different sounds and different impermanence in the environment by eliminating any craving for permanent silence. Then after that, we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then that's where we'll start our class today. And I'll help you guys to understand what the Pali Canon and English study group is. For those of you guys that are maybe looking for some guidance on your body positioning, there's 4 different positions that the Buddha taught in order to train the mind in meditation. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you need to learn these at different times in your journey. In the different courses and retreats that I teach people all these different positions because you use them at at different times for different reasons, but oftentimes people are starting out with the seated position. So I'll give you some guidance on this. You could be sitting on the floor, in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're in a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair or something like this. So you can really sit however you're comfortable. There's not just one fixed way to sit. But if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. That'll help soften your seat a bit. And then just have your legs lightly crossed. Whereas if they were real tight, this could impede circulation in the legs and it would cause pain. So you're not interested in experiencing pain during your meditation. So just having your legs lightly crossed is nice and helpful. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles and allows the circulation to flow. So if you like that, maybe that's something that you might choose to do. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use this. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. It's about finding what's comfortable for you. So some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you find whatever's comfortable for you with the hands and arms. And for anybody who's maybe at home sitting on a sofa or a bench or a chair, or if you'd like to sit in a chair here, we have those out there. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles. And then the same thing with the hands and arms. You just put them wherever you're comfortable. It's nice if the upper body is erect. Having the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. And this will make it better for you to meditate because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So having your mind attentive and alert during the meditation is really helpful. So having the sternum up and shoulders back, it'll help keep your mind attentive and alert. It also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose because your chest will be open and your lungs will be able to breathe much easier. So again, if you'd like to chant along, I'm going to ease us into meditation with that, and then I'm going to come back in with some guidance to help you understand how to do the meditation while we're actually doing it. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Oto bhagavate. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. ระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาโพตังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังโพโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys here at the temple. Welcome to everyone who joined us since we started meditating. Welcome to everyone online who's joining us as well. Nice to see all of you guys here today. I would like to share just a few things with you guys to help you get more comfortable with the environment here. Is we have a couple of bathrooms up here. If you guys would like to use the bathroom at any time, you're welcome to use it. There's one here in this first door, and then the very last door in the back, outside the glass doors, there's a bathroom there as well. So feel free to use the restroom anytime you like. We have waters and snacks and things like this over here on the table that you're welcome to help yourself to. Sometimes students bring stuff in and put it over there. This is all provided by our students, so you're welcome to help yourself over there. There's even bathrooms outside. If you go out the classroom to the parking lot, you'll see signs that take you around to the main temple bathroom. So you're welcome to use that at any time. Since this is our temporary classroom, I'd like to just test something real quick. Doche, can you hear me back there? You can hear me? Okay, I wasn't quite sure because there's a little bit different acoustics here than normally downstairs. So, okay. If you guys have trouble hearing me back there for any reason, just let me know. I can turn up the volume over here if you guys have any issues hearing me. Can you hear me, ma'am? Can you hear me? Just a little bit? Okay. Maybe, Doche, your ears are maybe tuned in a little bit. Let's see. How about now? You guys hear me better? Okay, yeah. So we got a little bit more volume there. Okay, perfect. So as I was mentioning, today is our Pali Canon and English study group. This is a program that students will oftentimes come into after they've already developed a foundation in the path to enlightenment. We have various programs here. On Sundays and Wednesdays, we have what's called the group learning program, where we go through a chapter by chapter program where we use these books over here. There's this first book called Developing a Life Practice the path that leads to enlightenment. And in this book, each Sunday I go chapter by chapter by chapter. We just restarted that program recently. We're on chapter 2 tomorrow, where I'm walking students through over a 7-month period, the entire book, and they can develop a foundation in the path to enlightenment. And we meet on Sundays and Wednesdays. We do this at 9 a.m. here at the temple, and then at 9 p.m. I do it from home, and I live stream both of those. So no matter what time zone you're in, you're able to attend one of those classes. And then if you can't attend live, it's recorded on Facebook, YouTube, and on our podcast. So you can attend those classes either live or listen to the recording and be reading the books as well, because the books are accessible for free. You can download them from our website. You can take them and go print them if you'd like. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order them on Amazon if you have access to Amazon. And over a 7-month period, students are gradually developing a foundation in the path to enlightenment. And then we have various courses and retreats throughout the year. Maybe Monday through Friday, we have various courses and retreats. These are all viewable on our calendar over there on the bulletin board, and they're also on our website too. If you go to buddhadailywisdom.com, you'll see the various courses and retreats that we have. And all of this is available to you at no cost. You can gradually be learning and growing and developing on your journey to enlightenment, to get to that peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy that is the enlightened mental state. Then students will oftentimes come to a program like this to kind of fill in the framework. If you've built a framework or a foundation through other courses and programs, this program is more to help you kind of fill that out. If this is the first time you've ever been learning here, it's okay. You'll learn plenty today in our Pali Canon and English study group, but just understand that this isn't where most people start out, because there's a lot of detailed teachings here that oftentimes need you to be able to understand other teachings. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you guys through this so that you guys can learn, even if it's your first time learning. Because what we do is we study with the original words of the Buddha. I have these chapters from the books where the other program, the group learning program, goes through volume 1. This program, over the course of a year and a half, we go through volumes 2 through 13 of the book series. And we go chapter by chapter. And what I do is I invite a student here at the temple or through Zoom to be able to read these chapters. If you read this particular chapter, you can see that it's about a page and maybe 3/4. And these are the original words of the Buddha. And after a student reads this, then I will share teachings on this for about 5 minutes or so, maybe 10 minutes, helping you guys to more deeply penetrate into it to be able to understand it. The Buddhist words are very clear, very concise, and very precise, but it really helps to have a dedicated teacher and practitioner to guide you along to be able to help you understand, because some of these teachings are related to other teachings that you may not know, especially if you haven't established a foundation. So after a student reads this and then I share some teachings on it, I will open up to any questions that you guys have related to what has been taught. So this is more like a study group, where the other programs and courses and retreats that I teach, it's more of a traditional style of learning where I'm kind of teaching for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I'm opening up to questions, then teaching another 15, 20, 30 minutes and opening up to questions, where this is more like a study group. So what I'd like to do is invite anybody here to be able to volunteer to read this chapter. And if you'd like to read, we have microphones here in front of the camera. If you could come get a microphone and just press the gray button, the lights will light up on the microphone, and then you hold it up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you on the live stream. If you didn't have a microphone here, they won't be able to hear you on the live stream. So if anybody would like to volunteer here, you're welcome to use the microphones. And then for those of you guys in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, you can unmute your microphone, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online through the live stream as well. And then the same thing goes for questions. If you guys have any questions, if you could use the microphones, that'd be great. You can even take them back to your seat with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question. You can just share the microphone. And then for those of you guys online, you can ask questions through putting that into Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom through the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. And then in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions by just unmuting your microphone. So is there anybody who would like to volunteer to read this first chapter? Josh? Yeah, sure. Go ahead, sir. You already got your microphone ready.
Awaiting his time mindful and clearly comprehending. Monks, a monk should await his time mindful and clearly comprehending. This is my instruction to you. And how, monks, is a monk mindful? Here, monks, a monk resides reflecting on the body as body dedicated, clearly comprehending, mindful, having put away cravings and displeasure in regard to the world. He resides reflecting on feelings as feelings, mind as mind, mental objects as mental objects, dedicated, clearly comprehending, mindful, having put away craving and displeasure in regard to the world. It is in such a way that a monk is mindful. And how, monks, does a mind exercise clear comprehension? Here, monks, a monk is one who acts with clear comprehension when going forward and returning, when looking ahead and looking aside, when drawing in and extending the limbs, when wearing his robes and carrying his outer robe and bowl, when eating, drinking, chewing his food and tasting, when defecating and urinating, when walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, waking up, speaking, and keeping silent. It is in such a way that a monk exercises clear comprehension. A monk should await his time mindful and clearly comprehending. This is my instruction to you. Monks, while a monk resides thus, mindful and clearly comprehending, diligent, dedicated, and determined, if there arises in him a pleasant feeling, he understands thus: there has arisen in me a pleasant feeling. Now that is dependent, not independent. Dependent on what? Dependent on this very body. But this body is impermanent, conditioned, dependently arisen. So when the pleasant feeling has arisen in dependence on a body, that is impermanent, conditioned, dependently arisen. How could it be permanent? He resides reflecting on impermanence in the body and in pleasant feelings. He resides reflecting on vanishing, reflecting on fading away, reflecting on elimination, reflecting on letting go. And he resides thus. The underlying tendency to crave in regard to the body and regard to pleasant feelings is abandoned by him. If he feels a pleasant feeling, he understands it. It is impermanent. He understands it is not held to. He understands it is not excited in. If he feels a pleasant feeling, he understands it is impermanent. He understands it is not held to. He understands it is not excited in. If he feels a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, he understands it is impermanent. He understands it is not held to. He understands it is not excited in. If he feels a pleasant feeling, he feels it without holding on to it. If he feels a painful feeling, he feels it without holding on to it. If he feels a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, he feels it without holding on to it. When he feels a feeling terminating with the body, he understands, I feel a feeling terminating within the body. When he feels a feeling terminating with life, he understands, I feel a feeling terminating with life. He understands, with the breakup of the body, following the exhaustion of life, all that is felt, not being excited in, will become cool right there. Just as, monks, an oil lamp burns in dependence on the oil and the wick, and with the exhaustion of the oil and the wick, it is extinguished through lack of fuel, so too, monks, when a monk feels a feeling terminating with the body, terminating with life, he understands. With the breakup of the body, following the exhaustion of life, all that is felt, not being excited in, will become cool right there.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so this teaching from the Buddha is starting with him explaining what mindfulness is in clear comprehension. These are two actual steps of the Eightfold Path. The core central teaching of the Buddha is called the Eightfold Path. These are 8 individual factors that you learn and you understand, and this is what's going to help you to train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state. This is a core central teaching. Without the understanding of the Eightfold Path, you would never be able to get to enlightenment based on the teachings of the Buddha. This is going to help you to be able to move the mind to that peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy that is a permanent mental state, that it's physically impossible for an enlightened being to experience anger or sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the enlightened mind. The Buddha discovered these pollutions that are in the mind, and when you uproot those pollutions out of the mind through training of the mind, you'll no longer experience these feelings. You might think right now that your feelings are being caused by other people, but in reality, these feelings are being caused by your own mind. Other people can't make you angry. Other people can't make you frustrated. But when your mind has craving, when it has desire, when it has longing and yearning, and you get what you want, you'll get pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But when you have that craving, desire, attachment, that longing and yearning in your mind, and you don't get what you want, you will get painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, and others. This is the mind causing its own discontent feelings because the mind is longing and yearning for something. This is referred to as craving, desire, attachment. The mind is chasing after the objects of its affection, wanting things to be permanent in the world. So, for example, if you were with a boyfriend or girlfriend, when you guys first got together, everything felt so wonderful, so pleasant, because you were getting what you wanted. You were getting this affection. Or maybe you guys were having great conversations, or you're going to the movies or to the mall, or maybe you were having great conversations or going to the park, or maybe you were having intimate contact or any of these kinds of things, and you felt such pleasure. But then over time, as your expectations grew and you wanted more and more from this person, and their wants and expectations grew and they wanted more and more from you, you couldn't fulfill their expectations permanently, and they couldn't fulfill yours, and you guys ended up breaking up and you ended your relationship. And now you might have felt lonely, or you might have felt bored. What was going on here is your mind was craving permanence, wanting this relationship to be permanent. It wasn't the love that was causing this. It was the mind wanting and longing, yearning for this relationship to be permanent. The mind doesn't understand in the unenlightened state the universal truth of impermanence, that everything around you is constantly changing. Your mind's going to crave permanence, not only in a situation with a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend, but when grandma and grandpa die, or mom or dad, or brothers and sisters, and you're grieving or fearing sorrow. This is the mind craving permanence. As long as grandma's alive, you'll be happy, and the mind's getting what it wants. But when you're not getting what you want, then the mind is going to experience discontent feelings like painful feelings. Or say you have a brand new car, and you really like this brand new car, and you feel so proud of it when you drive it off the parking lot of the dealership. And now you park it at a store, and you go inside and you come out and you see a scratch on your car. You might get frustrated, you might get agitated or annoyed. This is because the mind is craving permanence. It's wanting this car to be permanently beautiful. It's not the scratch that's causing the anger or the frustration. And it's not the person who scratched your car. It would be wonderful if our car never got scratched. That'd be wonderful. But that's not the world that we live in. We live in an impermanent world, and this car is going to get scratched. And if every time you experience impermanence, you get angry and frustrated or some other discontent feeling, you're going to just walk around being angry and irritated and annoyed about every little thing that's changing in your life. Things are going to be constantly changing. But as long as your mind's holding on, it's craving and it's clinging and it's wanting things to be permanent, you'll continue to experience these discontent feelings over and over and over again. So the Buddha is giving you the tools and the techniques, the wisdom to be able to train your mind to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state. And two of the things that you need on this journey is you need mindfulness and you need clear comprehension or concentration. In the Eightfold Path, there's 8 individual steps. It's called right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The Buddha doesn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship. He doesn't teach rules and commandments. It's not about believing a bunch of things. You're not believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, what you're doing is you're cultivating wisdom. You're training your mind. You're cultivating the wisdom of how to navigate the world through these natural laws. And when you understand the world around you and these natural laws that he taught, you'll be able to navigate the world more readily. But when you're angry or you're sad or you're frustrated or experiencing any of these other discontent feelings, this is the mind struggling and having difficulties because it's in a world that it doesn't understand. You might be craving to hear a certain type of music. And when you hear that music, you get so happy. But when you don't hear that music, maybe you get sad or frustrated or agitated because somebody's playing music that you don't like. But this is just impermanence. Or if you can think back to when you were a child, when you wanted chocolate and ice cream, maybe your mom and dad gave you that and you were so happy. But when they didn't give it to you, you felt angry or sad or frustrated or irritated. This is the mind causing its own discontent feelings. But the mind will firmly believe, with its lack of wisdom, that other people are causing you to be angry. But the more you understand the truth and you independently verify it on your own, you'll be able to see what I'm sharing with you is the truth. Because as I mentioned, the teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. What you do is you learn from a teacher and you learn from resources to be able to understand what these teachings are, and then you never believe them. You learn, examine, and investigate them. You reflect on them to independently verify whether they're true or they're false, and then you practice them, integrating them into your life and training your mind, uprooting the pollutions that are causing these discontent feelings. So you can independently verify what I'm sharing with you, that your mind is causing these discontent feelings. You can think about a recent time where you've been angry or frustrated or irritated, and you can look at that situation with these fresh eyes. It might have been this morning or yesterday or last week where you were angry or frustrated or irritated. Maybe at that time you were trying to blame somebody else for the feelings that you were experiencing, because this is common. You might have even been pushing people away. When you experience painful feelings, oftentimes when we falsely attribute that to other people, we will tend to push them away, thinking that that solves the problem, or we'll push the situation away. But you can see that it didn't solve the problem because you still get angry or irritated or annoyed. Or you might have been bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal. Or you might have been trying to put your expectations on people and trying to control people and get people to do things your way. If you're doing these kinds of things, you're not a bad person. You haven't necessarily done anything wrong. That's not what the teachings of the Buddha are about. It's just helping you to be able to see what's going on. So when you see the real cause of the problem, then you can fix it. So if you look at your life at a time when you've been recently angry or frustrated or annoyed, look at that situation. There was something that you wanted. And if you would have got that thing, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, you got irritated or annoyed or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. And you can see this for yourself. And if you have trouble seeing that, let me know. Because sometimes students ask questions and they'd like to be able to verify, and they just can't maybe see it for themselves. Because being able to see the cause of your anger and frustration and these other things is vitally important for you to be able to have this breakthrough, to be able to understand how to fix it. Because you wouldn't be able to solve this problem if you didn't understand what was causing it. So if you can learn and understand that your mind is causing these feelings because of craving, desire, attachment, it's craving permanence and wanting things to be a certain way permanently. Then when you can see that truth, then the teachings of the Buddha are here to guide you to be able to uproot this and be able to get to the point where the mind's always peaceful and always joyful. You'll notice that the mind's focused and concentrated, of clarity and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships will all be harmonious. They will be blossoming and at ease because you won't be bitter and harsh and hostile to others. And this happens through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. You can't just snap your fingers and get to the peace and the joy. This is one of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha. They think that he sat under a tree, he meditated, and then he instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. And he says very clearly in his teachings that it's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And you know that to be true because everything you've ever done in life has been that way. Whether it's been learning to read and write and speak English, it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Or whether it was some job or occupation that you have, you've had to be able to gradually train in that, gradually practice, and you've been able to see this gradual progress in your profession. So some of the tools that you're going to need is this mindfulness. What mindfulness is awareness of the mind. Because in order to be able to convert your mind and kind of transform your mind over to this enlightened mental state, you're going to need to be able to see the longing, the yearning. You're going to need to be able to see the mind chasing after the objects of its affection. Where maybe you're in the mall and you see this brand new pair of shoes or some jewelry or a new mobile phone or a video game or something like that. And you're like, I just gotta have that. The mind longs and yearns for it. It just thinks life's going to be so perfect if you get this thing. And if you get it, you get happy. But if you don't get it, then you get sad or angry or frustrated. So what you need to be able to do is use your mindfulness or awareness of mind to be able to see that the mind is longing and yearning and chasing after this thing. And it's trying to form its inner feelings on this thing. If you get that brand new pair of shoes, you might be so happy. But if you go in the store and they don't have your size, you might be frustrated or irritated or annoyed. And then even if you get that happiness, it's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. Because ultimately, if you base your feelings on some condition, that condition is impermanent. So if I get really happy that it's sunny outside, I'll be happy when it's sunny. But then when it's raining, you'll be sad or frustrated. And that's just impermanence. That's all it is, that it can't be permanently sunny. So if you have craving for permanence and you're wanting it to be sunny permanently, then you're basically sabotaging your mind, because at some point you're going to be frustrated or angry or irritated. So this mindfulness that the Buddha is talking about, this awareness of mind, is to be aware that the mind is longing and yearning. And there's other certain qualities of mind that you're going to be able to observe too, because you're going to need to apply effort to eliminate certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and cultivate certain wholesome qualities in the mind. What the Buddha is talking about here is the 4 foundations of mindfulness, where he's talking about reflecting on body as body, feelings as feelings, mind as mind, and mental objects as mental objects. This is having awareness of these things. What the body is, what he's talking about here is, before you get angry, there's some bodily sensations that you're experiencing that you may or may not be aware of right now. It might be like tingling in the body, tightening in the chest, maybe tightening in the throat. You might feel some heat in the face. You might feel some pressure in the skull. This is like an early warning system alerting you, hey, you're about to get angry. And if you don't do anything about it, then you're going to experience the feeling. That's the next step, that the feeling is going to come into the mind. Now the mind's angry. And if you don't do anything about that, then it's going to affect the condition of the mind. For the next few hours, the next few days, the next week or two, you're going to be grumpy and irritated and annoyed. And then if you don't do anything about that, it's going to feed what's called a mental object, which is a deeply rooted container in the mind, something like ill will. This is what we're talking about with anger. So what the Buddha teaches you is to develop this mindfulness or this awareness of mind, where you're aware of these bodily sensations that are essentially this early warning system before your mind gets angry or frustrated or any other discontent feeling. And what you would like to do is be able to cut that off and let it go. Don't allow the mind to experience that conditioned feeling. You're not suppressing your feelings here. What you're doing is you're cutting it off before it actually becomes a feeling. Because this early warning system, these bodily sensations, it's like the mind saying to you, hey, I'm about to get a feeling. I'm about to get a conditioned feeling. I'm about to get angry. I'm about to get frustrated. I'm about to get stress or anxiety or fear or guilt. And you can say, nope, not going to let you do that. You can cut it off and let it go before it actually even becomes a feeling. So you don't have to feel guilty and shameful and fearful. You can actually cut it off. And if you do this enough in your day-to-day life, you'll eventually get to the point where your mind doesn't experience any arising of any anger or guilt or shame or stress or anxiety, because you've eliminated the causes and conditions that are producing it. It's kind of like if you were in a boat. When you were going from maybe like Canada to Scotland, right? Maybe you're traveling across the ocean and you're out in the middle of the ocean and you would like to prevent the water from ever coming into the boat. Because once it's actually in the boat, you've got a real problem to deal with. It's the same thing that you'd like to prevent these conditioned feelings from coming into the mind. Because when your mind is experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and any of these other discontent feelings, your mind's shaken up. And you can't make wise decisions. This is where you might have been bitter and harsh and hostile towards people. And now you might have damaged your relationship. And maybe your relationship's ended. Or maybe you lost your job or some other difficult thing that's occurred as a result of the mind becoming angered and irritated and frustrated. And then maybe you became unskillful in your intentions, your speech, and your actions. So this mindfulness that you cultivate is this awareness of mind so that you can be aware aware of what's going on within your own mind. And ultimately, you like to develop awareness of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And then this leads to concentration, this clear comprehension. This is called clear comprehension here, but in the Eightfold Path, it's referred to as concentration. What you would like to be able to do is develop this concentration where you can be focused and clear. Because when you're focused and clear, you'll be able to then access your wisdom and make wise decisions. So the way that your mind works is essentially if the mind is uncalm, then you're going to lack mindfulness or awareness of mind. If you lack awareness of mind, you will lack concentration. And when you lack concentration, you can't access your wisdom and make wise decisions. So for example, if you got a phone call that your mom was in a terrible car accident and she's in the back of an ambulance and they're on their way to the hospital. If your mind got all shaken up in that situation, you were uncalm, then you're not going to have awareness of mind. You're not going to have focus and concentration, and you're not going to be able to make wise decisions. You might grab your car keys and jump into the car and race across town. You might actually get into a car accident yourself. Or at the very least, when you show up, when the doctors and nurses are talking to you, you can't understand what it is they're saying, and now it's going to be difficult for you to make wise decisions to help your mom. But on the contrary, if you can develop this mindfulness and concentration where you can remain calm and focused, even in difficult situations, now when you hear that information, okay, mom's been in a car accident. You know that mom being healthy is impermanent. It's not possible for mom to be permanently healthy. It's just not possible because her body is impermanent, just like yours and mine, right? So we understand, okay, mom's impermanent. She's unhealthy right now, but that's impermanent too. Mom can get back to health. So let's stay calm. Let's have mindfulness or awareness of mind. Let's have concentration, and then we can access our wisdom. Now we can calmly make our way to the hospital, and when we arrive, then we can listen to the doctors and nurses and make some wise decisions to help her. Because racing across town isn't going to help mom. Mom's in the best place that she can be. She's in the back of an ambulance with emergency medical technicians, and she's about to arrive to a hospital with all kinds of sophisticated equipment. There's nothing about me racing across town that's going to help her. Right? It's actually better if I show up to the hospital with a calm mind. And now I can access my wisdom to be able to listen to the doctors and nurses and make some wise decisions to help her. Right? So the Buddha is teaching you to cultivate this mindfulness and concentration among other qualities as well. And the way that you do this is through practicing what's called singleness of mind. He doesn't mention that here, but he mentions it in other teachings. This is a great little phrase to remember, is that you'd like to do just one thing at a time, practicing concentration or singleness of mind. If you've been taught to do multiple things, your mind's not actually doing multiple things. Your mind's actually bouncing from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, because your mind can only do one thing at a time. You might be writing your email for a few seconds, talking on the phone for a few seconds, watching TV for a few seconds. Your mind's bouncing around. And if you do this for 8 or 10 or 12 hours a day at work, you'll get home and you'll feel stressed and you'll have anxiety and you'll have a hard time getting some rest and getting some sleep, because your mind's overactive, right? So if you can practice singleness of mind, then in day-to-day life, you just do one thing at a time. You write your email. And if somebody walks into your office, you might choose to stop writing your email, and now you talk to the person who's walked into your office. Or if you're on the phone and somebody walks into your office, maybe you finish your conversation and then you address the person who's walked in. Whereas if you try to switch back and forth like this, your mind's going to be overactive and it's going to be difficult for you to have concentration and focus. So you'd like to be able to do this in all parts of your day. The Buddha is talking about the life of an ordained practitioner here. So he's talking about having singleness of mind, wearing your robe and the way you walk and eat and drink and chew food and stand and sit and things like this. But your life's going to be very different, right? You're going to be doing different things. So like right now, as you're listening to me talk, if your mind's wandering and thinking about going to see the elephants or going to the waterfalls or going to have some great cow soy or something, go get a massage, and your mind starts wandering, you would like to cut that off and let it go. That's where your mindfulness comes in. You can be aware of your mind. Your mind starts to wander in a business meeting. You cut that off and let it go, and you bring your mind back to the focus of the present moment. And now more and more, your mind will just stay focused like that all the time. But if you have difficulties focusing and have concentration, that's just because you haven't trained your mind yet. When you're doing this meditation that we just did, the breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, and every time your mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and bring your mind back to the breath. This is training your mind to have mindfulness or awareness of mind. It's training your mind to have focus or concentration, so that then in daily life, you can practice those qualities. And it's training your mind to let go, let go, let go. Because as you heard me share, the mind in the unenlightened state has craving, desire, attachment. It's longing, it's yearning, it's wanting things to be a certain way. When you were with that boyfriend or girlfriend, you might have felt really great. And then when you guys broke up, you might have missed them or felt lonely or bored. But at some point, your mind let go. You were like, if he wants to be with somebody else, so be it. And you let him go. Or if she would like to be with someone else, so be it. And you let them go, right? And when you let go, that's when your mind regained its peace and its joy. So this meditation isn't to train your mind to eliminate your thoughts. So if you had lots of thoughts during your meditation, this is normal when you first get started. But over time, you'll be able to learn how to let go more and more. And then in your day-to-day life, where you're noticing that you're angry, you're frustrated or agitated, there's just something your mind's holding on to. You're wanting something to be permanent. And you just got to train your mind to let go. And if you can let go, then your mind can regain its peace and joy. And then eventually you train your mind so well that it never grabs on to begin with, that you understand that all these things around you are impermanent. And that's what the Buddha starts talking about down here. He's talking about these pleasant feelings, the happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. He talks about how these feelings are impermanent. So essentially these happiness, it arises, changes, and it fades away. Because if you're happy because you got more money at your job, you'll be happy for a few months. But then eventually that won't be enough money anymore. You'll want more. Right? That's the craving. Or if your bank account is here, you'll be happy. But then when it goes down here, then you'll be sad or frustrated. This is just impermanence. That's all it is. So these pleasant feelings that the Buddha is talking about, he's saying they're impermanent. So it's unwise to hold on to them and crave for them to be permanent. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you won't be experiencing conditioned happiness, which is based on some condition that arises, changes, and fades away. You'll be experiencing unconditioned happiness, where the mind is just happy all the time, not based on any condition, that the mind can just reside peaceful and joyful permanently. But it's not based on, if it's sunny outside, I'll be happy, so therefore if it's raining, I'll be sad. Instead, it's like, hey, I'm already happy before I saw it was sunny outside. And now when it's raining, I can maintain my happiness. This is just impermanence. That's all it is. Of course, it's not going to be sunny permanently. Of course, your bank account balance isn't going to be here permanently. It's going to go down here sometimes. And you can train your mind that this is completely normal and you don't have to crave permanence. But if you cling to these pleasant feelings and you hold on to these conditioned feelings, wanting them to be permanent, longing and yearning, then when things start changing in your life, you'll find it to be very difficult. So like when your relationships are changing, or your job is changing, or your living environment is changing, this might be times where you had the biggest challenges. So these feelings of pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neither painful nor pleasant, these are all something that's going to be impermanent. It's going to arise, it's going to change, it's going to fade away. And that's what the unenlightened mind is experiencing. But by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind is just permanently happy and cheerful and glad and focused and concentrated. So the Buddha is talking about, okay, when you experience this pleasant feeling, it would be wise to not hold on to it. Because if you hold on to it and want it to be permanent, when it's gone, you'll feel the painful feelings. Okay, any questions on this? Those of you guys online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, I'm not seeing any. Oh, you have a question? Yes, ma'am. There's some microphone.
Hello, I'm Vivi from China. Thank you for teaching us everything. So my question is, from what you said, so is our goal is to be happy permanent?
Mm-hmm.
Is that our goal?
Yes.
Because you said everything is not permanent.
Mm-hmm.
So if we wanted to reach a goal to be happy, like train the mind to be wise, everything, is that our goal?
Yeah, so conditioned feelings are impermanent. But when you get to the unconditioned mental qualities of enlightenment, these are permanent. So there's conditioned objects which arise, change, and fade away. And then there's what's called unconditioned objects. They don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. But everything you see, hear, smell, taste, everything that comes in contact with the body, and any kind of thoughts or ideas that go through the mind, these are all conditioned experiences, and they are impermanent. They will arise, change, and fade away. But by the time you purify your mind of the pollutions that the Buddha discovered, particularly this craving, desire, attachment, you'll remove the mind forming its feelings based on some condition. And you'll get to unconditioned mental qualities. And it is accomplished through cultivation of wisdom. That with the mind lacking wisdom of what truly is going on in the world, then it will continue to struggle and have difficulties. So, for example, the unenlightened mind lacks the wisdom of the universal truth of impermanence, that things are constantly changing. And this is one of the reasons why the mind craves permanence, because it doesn't realize that that's not possible with the material world. But the mind itself can get to this permanent mental state because it's an unconditioned mental state. The mind's been purified. All the conditions that are in the mind, the pollutions that are causing the mind to form inner feelings, those have all been eliminated, that the mind's no longer forming these conditioned feelings based on external things. Instead, your mind is just inwardly peaceful and joyful in this permanent mental state. So yes, the goal in life would be to cultivate wisdom, gain more and more wisdom, and then train your mind with that wisdom. And the way you get wisdom is by not believing in anything. You never believe a teacher. You never believe the books. You learn it, examine it, investigate it. You reflect on it to independently verify whether it's true or false. And then you practice and train your mind, and you can see the truth for yourself. Because as you're moving closer and closer to enlightenment, you'll see that your mind's doing this. Because you'll know certain situations where you were once angry or frustrated or irritated, your mind doesn't do that anymore. And you'll know, like, aha, these teachings are working because I've been training my mind, and here it is, this situation, I don't get angry anymore because you've trained your mind. And this is where you can see more and more that it's not the outside world that's causing your discontent feelings.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So how can we become a colorful person if we're always like calm with everything? Happiness, I'm like not too happy. Sadness, I'm not too sad. Well, you feel like, oh, I'm cold, I'm just too calm.
Did you say, how do you become a colorful person? Yeah. Okay. So when I talk about enlightenment and I describe the mental state of peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, oftentimes people can't imagine that. And they think that, that must be like so numb. You must just be walking around, feeling dull and lethargic. This isn't true. The unenlightened mind can typically see two sides. It can see the longing, the yearning, and the chasing after things, and how that is causing all these discontent feelings. And it can also see the other side, because what the unenlightened mind does is when it's not chasing, it will swing to the other side, and it will be dull and lethargic and kind of numb perhaps. But there's this middle way that the mind isn't familiar with, where you gradually work towards goals and objectives. And in the enlightened mental state, your mind can be cheerful and bright and radiant and uplifted all the time, no matter what's going on. You're not experiencing conditioned feelings anymore, because over here with craving, desire, attachment, you can only be happy when you're getting what you want. If my bank account is this, if my mom and dad do this, if my boss does this, if the weather is this, if I get to go to Thailand, this, right? If I get all these things, then I will be happy. But if those things aren't happening, then I'm going to be angry or sad or frustrated or irritated or annoyed. But there's this middle way where you gradually work towards things, and you don't form your feelings based on whether you get this thing or not. So the enlightened mind is cheerful and bright and uplifted, and you're having way more fun and enjoyment in life in the enlightened mental state than you ever did in the unenlightened state. Because in the unenlightened state, you can only have fun and enjoy when you're getting things your way. And you can't do that permanently because of impermanence. But in the unenlightened state, in the enlightened state, you don't want things to be any particular way. You'll work towards goals and objectives, but you don't have this craving for things to be one particular way. And I can only be happy when I get it that way. Instead, hey, if we're downstairs and we have air conditioning, wonderful, because we have air conditioning downstairs. If we have air conditioning, wonderful, it's great. Hey, and we even have windows, so it's kind of quiet down there. We can talk and have really great conversations. Wonderful. But you know what? If for 4 weeks we need to be up here, no air conditioning, we hear a little bit more sound because the windows are open, okay, this is just impermanence. But if I really wanted the air conditioner and I really wanted that quieter environment, now I can only be happy when I'm downstairs. And now being up here, I'd be frustrated and irritated or annoyed. So getting to enlightenment isn't to feel numb or devoid of any kind of interesting things in the mind. Instead, it's to get to that enjoyment and that happiness that is a permanent mental state where the mind's always cheerful and always glad, because you're not basing your feelings on getting it one particular way or another.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions here? Okay, not seeing any questions online either. Okay, so let's go to the next chapter. Is there someone who would like to read this one? By the way, what you've got here is you've got the words of the Buddha. You've got a reference to the Pali Canon. The Pali Canon is 45 volumes of books that are this thick. That's the original teachings of the Buddha. And what this book series does is it extracts it and it gives you kind of like a consolidated version of this Pali Canon. And it's freely accessible to you. So this reference goes back to the original, and you can see that what the Buddha was talking about before this or after this. Then you've got words from me that are helping you, like right there, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. I'm explaining what those are, giving you this little table to be able to help you. And then I'm helping you to understand various aspects of the teachings of the Buddha. Okay, so this is chapter 22. Would someone like to read this? Yes, sir.
Nothing is worth adhering to. Then a certain monk approached the perfectly enlightened one and said to him, Venerable Sir, is there one thing through the abandoning of which ignorance, unknowing of true reality, is abandoned by a monk and true wisdom arises? There is one thing, monk, through the abandoning of which ignorance, the unknowing of true reality, is abandoned by a monk and true wisdom arises. And what is that one thing, Venerable Sir? Ignorance, monk, is that one thing through the abandoning of which ignorance is abandoned by a monk and true wisdom arises. But, Venerable Sir, how should a monk know? How should he see for ignorance to be abandoned by him and true wisdom to arise? Here, monk, a monk has heard, nothing is worth adhering to. When a monk has heard, nothing is worth adhering to, he directly knows everything. Having directly known everything, he fully understands everything. Having fully understood everything, he sees all signs differently. He sees the eye differently. He sees forms differently. He sees eye consciousness differently. He sees eye contact differently. And whatever feeling arises with eye contact as condition, experiencing pleasure, pain, or neither painful nor pleasant, that too he sees differently. He sees the ear differently. He sees sounds differently. He sees ear consciousness differently. He sees ear contact differently. And whatever feeling arises with ear contact as condition, experiencing pleasure, pain, or neither painful nor pleasant, that too he sees differently. He sees the nose differently. He sees odors differently. He sees nose consciousness differently. He sees nose contact differently. And whatever feeling arises with nose contact as condition, experiencing pleasure, pain, or neither painful nor pleasant, that too he sees differently. He sees the tongue differently. He sees flavors differently. He sees tongue consciousness differently. He sees tongue contact differently. And whatever feeling arises with tongue contact as condition, experiencing pleasure, pain, or neither painful nor pleasant, that too he sees differently. He sees the body differently. He sees physical objects differently. He sees body consciousness differently. He sees body contact differently. And whatever feeling arises with body contact as condition, experiencing pleasure, pain, or neither painful nor pleasant, that too he sees differently. He sees the mind differently. He sees mental objects differently. He sees mind consciousness differently. He sees mind contact differently, and whatever feeling arises with mind contact as condition, experiencing pleasure, pain, or is neither painful nor pleasant, that too he sees differently. When, a monk knows and sees thus ignorance, the unknowing of true reality, is abandoned by him, and true wisdom arises.
Okay, great. Thank you, Pat. So this is a chapter that you need to know a few other things to be able to understand it. So I'll explain these things to you. There are three problems at a high level that the Buddha discovered in the mind. Is called craving, anger, and ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality. The most deepest level of detail that the Buddha teaches about the pollutions in the mind is called the 10 fetters. These are 10 individual pollutions that you learn about, and then he provides you the tools and the techniques of how to uproot them and eliminate them out of the mind. And as you eliminate these 10 fetters, that is what produces enlightenment, that your mind will then be peaceful and calm, serene and content with joy. One of those fetters and one of these three poisons or three unwholesome roots of craving, anger, and ignorance is ignorance, or this unknowing of true reality. This is what keeps the mind stuck in the unenlightened state, that the mind is lacking wisdom. It doesn't understand, that the mind firmly believes that other people are causing you to be angry. This might be what you firmly think right now, right? But this is because of the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom that the mind has. In reality, it's the craving, it's the longing, and it's the yearning. If the mind gets what it wants, it gets the pleasant feelings. And if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets the painful feelings. And when it's not getting what it wants, that's when the anger arises. So we call this craving, anger, and ignorance. But in reality, it's because of ignorance or the unknowing of true reality that craving and anger continues in the mind. So everything in the path to enlightenment that the Buddha taught is all about the cultivation of wisdom. That's how you get to enlightenment, is cultivate wisdom about the natural world around you. That if you lack wisdom of the natural law, you will struggle and you will have difficulties. Just like when you grew up, you didn't understand the natural law of gravity. You struggled. You had difficulties. We all did. We fell down. We hit our head. We busted our elbows. We fell off our bicycle. We had all kinds of problems. We broke our toys, right? But slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of the natural law of gravity. And then we started navigating the world more peacefully. We stopped struggling and having difficulties because we had wisdom of the natural law of gravity. We started tying our shoes tighter. We started looking at the surface of the street. We're now at the point where we can climb ladders. We can get on airplanes. We can ride bicycles and motorbikes because we fully awoke to the natural law of gravity. We have wisdom. So it's wisdom that leads to improved decision making. And now in those improved decisions, you will experience wholesome results or wholesome gamma. Some people call it karma. This is the results of your decisions. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's not a black cloud following you around. It's not about punishments and rewards. There's no being who's overseeing this. It's when you make wise decisions, you will experience wholesome results. And when you make unwise decisions, you'll experience unwholesome results. But as long as this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality is in the mind, you'll continue to make unwise decisions without even realizing it. You'll think you have all the best intentions in the world. You'll enter into a conversation and it just blows up on you and you're confused and you don't even know why. Right? But when you cultivate wisdom about the natural laws, you'll be able to navigate the world and speak with people in ways that you don't have difficulties and struggles in your relationships. So the Buddha is guiding you to abandon this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality by cultivation of wisdom. That's how you get rid of this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality. And that's why you don't believe any of the teachings. Because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because someone convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. it. So you would like to get to the point where you're not believing anything, that you're cultivating wisdom about the natural laws around you. And one of the things that you cultivate wisdom about is something called sensual desire. This is where the Buddha is going into talking about the eyes and the ears and the nose and the tongue and the body and the mind. What sensual desire is where the mind has this longing, yearning through the senses, where through the eyes, you want to see permanently agreeable forms. And if you get what you want through your eyes and you see this thing that's agreeable to you, you get pleasant feelings. But if you see something that's disagreeable to you, you get painful feelings. The same thing's happening through the ears. If you hear somebody says, wow, you're so beautiful, you're so handsome, wow, you get so excited, right? But then when someone says, wow, you put on some weight, you're getting really heavy, you're like, who are you? You get grumpy or irritable, right? Or maybe you hear some music. Maybe you're at a stoplight and somebody pulls up to you with some music and you're like, yeah, all right, that's my jam. Yeah, all right. But then you go up to the next light and someone else has some different kind of music. And now you see this as disagreeable. And now because of your sensual desire, your longing, yearning through your ear, now when you hear the agreeable sounds, you get happy. And when you hear the disagreeable sounds, you get frustrated or irritated or annoyed. This is called sensual desire, where the mind is longing, yearning through the senses, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and then the mind itself. And I can give you examples of each one of these if you like. So what the Buddha is saying is that there's nothing worth adhering to, meaning that when you hear that music and it sounds so great, okay, enjoy the music, but understand it's impermanent. It's going to be gone, right? So when you enjoy this music, when then the car leaves and you can't hear it anymore, you're like, I was really enjoying that music. Or maybe your friend comes over to visit you at home and you're like, this is really fun. It's so enjoyable to spend time with you. But now when they're ready to leave and go home, it's like, I miss you. I don't want you to leave, because you're holding on. And the Buddha is saying there's nothing worth adhering to, because if you hold on to things and you cling to them, when you experience the impermanence where it changes, you'll be frustrated, you'll be annoyed. So through these sense spaces, the mind is going to want to cling to this stuff. With its lack of wisdom, with its ignorance, it's going to want to cling and hold on. It's going to want to crave permanence. But what he's saying is when you eliminate this ignorance, when you have wisdom, you understand there's nothing worth adhering to. You enjoy the moment and then you move on. And the Buddha says here that when you understand this wisdom, that you look at things differently, that you see the eye differently. The eye is impermanent, right? Your sight's going to deteriorate. That forms, you see those differently, that all these physical forms are going to be constantly changing. You're not craving your body, for example, to look a certain way permanently, because you can't be youthful permanently. You're going to get wrinkles. You're going to get gray hair. You're going to put on extra weight. You're going to get a pimple or a mole. But if you crave permanence of this body, for example, then you're going to be frustrated when it starts changing, right? So you see that differently. You see eye consciousness differently. What eye consciousness is when you have your internal sense base of the eye, ear, nose, tongue, the body, and the mind, then there's an external sense base. So the case of the eye, the external sense base is the physical form. So this table is a physical form. When my mind becomes aware of that table, this is called eye consciousness. The mind is now aware of that table. And these three things are called eye contact. That the eye saw the physical form, and now the mind became aware of it. And now this is called contact, eye contact. And the Buddha is saying that you see these things differently, that you understand that these things are impermanent, they're going to be changing, and there's no sense of clinging to it and holding on to it. So I'll give you an example. They're doing work downstairs. When we go down there in about 4 weeks from now, it's going to be absolutely beautiful. The floor is sanded and resurfaced. They're putting wallpaper in. They're redoing the tiles in the bathroom. It's going to be like a brand new entire center. But it's impermanent, right? It's going to change. It's going to get scratches on the floor. The wallpaper is going to peel. The tiles are going to maybe come loose or break at some point, right? Over time, that room is going to deteriorate. But if we cling to it and we get so happy, look at our classroom. Wow, it looks so great. Well, now when things start changing, it doesn't look so good anymore, right? We'll be frustrated or irritated or annoyed. So the Buddha is saying that you see these things differently. So it's like, oh, wow, look, our classroom looks really beautiful. Wow, this is really nice. We're going to enjoy this. All right, let's go. What do we have to do? Let's learn some teachings of the Buddha. Right? But we're not clinging to this environment, wanting it to be permanent. We understand that it is impermanent. So we're going to see these things differently. We're going to look at things that we see through the eyes, that you hear through the ears, things that you smell, things that you taste, things that come in contact with the body, and then thoughts and ideas that go through your mind. You're going to see it differently when you understand that these things are impermanent. You're going to learn not to cling to these things and want them to be permanent. Because as soon as you cling to something and you want it to be permanent, when it changes, you're going to hurt. You're going to feel painful feelings. You'll see that in your life. And why would you cling to something if you know it's just going to cause you pain? It's kind of like you walk down the beach and you kick up the sand and it blows right back in your face. You're going to realize, like, no, I'm not interested in doing this anymore, right? So you're going to learn not to cling and hold on to things and want them to be permanent, because it just leads to painful feelings. That's all it leads to. So you just learn how to go through life and enjoy the things that are around you, but not to cling to it and want it to be permanent. So like if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend or a husband or wife and you guys are together, you'll feel really great and feel really happy. But then when maybe someone goes on a business trip, you're like, oh, I miss you, honey. When are you coming back? Oh, I want you to come home. Please come back. I feel miserable, right? But if you can enjoy your time together, okay, we're having fun. But then when you're apart, you can enjoy that too. Then you don't feel so miserable, right? So that's what you would ultimately like to get to. But it takes training for your mind to do that. And the first part of that is to be able to see impermanence, that these things are constantly changing. So you don't cling to it. So that's what the Buddha is saying here, is nothing is worth adhering to. Even your boyfriend, girlfriend, even your mom and dad, even your money. As soon as you cling to it and adhere to it, you're setting yourself up for painful feelings. Because when those things change, you're going to be in painful feelings. Okay? Any questions on this one? No questions? Okay, let me see what the next one is. Okay, let's just do this last one and then we'll finish up here, because this basically ties into what we've been talking about all morning. Looks like Josh, you're going to read that one? Someone else going to read it? Okay, go ahead, Josh.
Knowing and seeing as impermanent. Then a certain monk approached the perfectly enlightened one and said to him, Venerable Sir, is there one thing through the abandoning of which ignorance, unknowing of true reality, is abandoned by a monk, and true wisdom arises? Monk, when a monk knows and sees the I as impermanent, ignorance is abandoned by him, and true wisdom arises. When he knows and sees forms as impermanent, when he knows and sees as impermanent whatever feeling arises with eye contact as condition, ignorance is abandoned by him and true wisdom arises.
Okay, so all of these other ones are just the same. It's just a different sense base, the nose, the tongue, the body, and then the mind itself. So we can just finish up here.
Last one, the last time.
Yeah, the last paragraph.
When a monk knows and sees thus, ignorance is abandoned by him and true wisdom arises.
Okay, thank you, Josh. So here, the reason why I decided to finish with this one is because this is what I was just talking about, right? When he was talking about you see things differently, the reason why is because you know they're impermanent. And here the Buddha is just saying it himself. He's saying it here very clearly, right? That all these things are impermanent, so you're going to see these things differently. And that's what you would ultimately like to get to, is that you can see that the world is constantly changing. We started out with a certain number of students in the class, and now there's a different number. This is just impermanence. People aren't rude. They're not being disrespectful to leave. They just got other things they're going to do, right? People come, they get whatever benefit they would like to get, and then they choose to leave, right? So if I cling, if I crave, if I want everybody to stay the entire class, when people start getting up and leaving, I'd be frustrated, I'd be annoyed, right? But if you understand impermanence, it's like, of course people are coming and going. Sometimes we start out with a small number, and then as we go, more and more people start coming. So sometimes it grows, sometimes it shrinks, sometimes it grows, sometimes it shrinks. So you need to understand that everything around you is constantly changing. And this is what's going to help you to be able to train your mind to let go. Because if you thought that the things in the world around you were permanent and you kept craving permanence, you're just going to keep experiencing anger and frustration over and over and over again. So any questions you guys have about this or anything else you guys would like to ask about, either here or online? Those of you guys online, you can put your question into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Yes, ma'am. Lots of talking over here.
Sorry, everyone. So I want to ask about love, also the trauma when you were a child.
Yeah.
So each of them non-permanent. I learned today. Each of them are non-permanent. So how can we hold on to, how to let go the trauma or keep because they say love is permanent, is not.
Yeah. Okay. So two things there. Let's do the trauma one first. So when you experience some experience, like let's just say somebody was physically abused or sexually abused as a child, and now as an adult, they can remember that, and now they feel sad or guilty or shameful based on what's happened in the past. What this is the mind holding on and clinging. In the mind, because it craves permanence, it doesn't know how to let go. So in this situation, the person's experiencing painful feelings today because their mind is forming these feelings based on something that happened in the past. Instead, they can just let go of that experience, realize that, hey, this happened, but it doesn't define who I am today as a person, and I don't need to form my feelings based on that thing, because that thing was impermanent. That thing that happened was impermanent. It's just that the mind is choosing to hold on to it. Okay, so the mind can be trained to let go. And breathing mindfulness meditation is part of that. Generosity is part of that. And then there's other aspects of cutting off and letting go and training your mind to let go, that you can train your mind that if there was something in the past that happened, you don't have to form feelings on that based on today. Because otherwise you just keep experiencing that stuff over and over and over again. In terms of love, what you might be thinking about as love right now, someone might think that that is impermanent, but that's not actually true love. True love is unconditional love. It's unconditioned. But what people are practicing and thinking is love is not actually love. You might meet somebody, you're physically attracted to them, or maybe you're attracted to them financially, or maybe intellectually. You might be attracted to this person, and now you guys get to know each other. You spend time together, and you get to a point where you've been together for a certain amount of time, and you might say, I love you. And they say, I love you too. And it's like, we're now in love. Wow, we're in love. But then time goes on, and you get to a point where you say, I don't love you anymore. I've fallen out of love with you. Or they might say the same thing to you, like, I've fallen out of love with you. I don't love you anymore. We need to end our relationship. Well, that's not love, right? What that is at the beginning of our relationship, you were meeting my expectations and you were doing what I wanted you to do. So I will say, I love you. Because I love you, I want you to be with me because you make me happy. So be with me because you make me happy. And now you're meeting my expectations. But as time goes on, this person isn't meeting your expectations anymore, or you're not meeting their expectations, and they say, I don't love you anymore. So what this is craving, desire, attachment, masquerading as love. This is, if you do what I want and you meet my selfish desires, I will say I love you. But then when you don't do what I want you to do anymore, nope, I don't love you. Bye-bye. You're not doing what I want you to do, right? So that's trying to control somebody, trying to force someone to do things a certain way. And these might be the kinds of relationships that you've been in, where you wanted certain things from this person, or this person wanted certain things from you, and you guys were in love for a period of time, but then you fell out of love. But that's falling into craving and out of craving. It's like, hey, you meet my expectations, so I'll spend time with you, and I will say I love you, and I will act like I love you. But as soon as you stop doing what I want you to do, nope, I'm not going to show any kind of care or concern for you whatsoever, because you're not doing what I want. right? This is selfishness. This isn't true love. What true love is unconditional love. There's no such thing as conditional love, but we might call that conditional love. Like, if you meet these conditions, I will say I love you. But when you stop meeting these conditions, I don't love you anymore. Over here, what you would like to get to, which is permanent, is unconditional love. That I love you as you are. You didn't do anything to earn my love, so therefore there isn't anything you can do for me to stop loving you. So I love you. What love means is a genuine interest in seeing you be well. Over here, it's I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy, right? This is selfishness. But over here, what true love is I love you as you are. I love you unconditionally. I don't want anything from you. I don't expect anything from you. I'm not going to try to force and control you to do anything any particular way. I just have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. And I understand that you being well is based on your decisions. It's not based on my decisions. It's based on your decisions. You're responsible for your own wellness, right? I'm not interested in putting my expectations on you or controlling you or telling you what you should or shouldn't be doing in life. It's your life and it's your decisions, right? So unconditional love is to just love you as you are. And you don't fall into that and you don't fall out of that. You just love somebody as they are. So you could, I don't suggest this, but you could go out and murder somebody today. Right? And you could call me from jail and say, David, I made a really big mistake. I need your help. Can you come see me? Yeah, I'll be right there to see you with a smile on my face. I disagree with what you did, but I don't have to stop loving you just because I disagree with what you did. Right? I love you unconditionally. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have killed someone. But the fact that somebody has, that's an unwise decision. I can disagree with someone's decision while still loving the person. If you can only love somebody who you agree with, there's only one person in the world that you're ever going to agree with 100% of the time. Do you know who that is? Yourself, right? And you probably have trouble loving yourself sometimes, right? Sometimes people have negative self-talk in your mind. So if you can only love people who do things your way, you can only love one person in the world, and that's yourself, right? And you might have trouble doing that. So you need to be able to separate the choices and decisions somebody makes from the person themselves. So you can love the person, have a genuine interest in seeing them be well, while understanding that you're not going to agree with their choices and decisions. So I've never met anyone that says, I agree with everything my mom and dad did, right? Does anyone agree everything with their mom and dad, what they did? Does anybody? I've never met anybody that's agreed with everything their mom and dad did. Of course not, because they've had different experiences in life than you. But you can just learn to love them as they are and appreciate them for what they are as a human being and just love them unconditionally, meaning have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. You're going to disagree with their choices and decisions. Same thing with your brothers and sisters. You're going to disagree with their choices and decisions, but just love them as they are, meaning you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. You don't want anything from them. You don't expect anything from them. You understand that they need to be their own person and make their own decisions, and you just love them as they are. And then you can do this permanently. You can love everybody permanently because you have a genuine interest in seeing everyone be well. And that's unconditional love. Yeah, you're welcome. And this takes time to be able to do. It's easy to sit here in a classroom and talk about having unconditional love, but when you go see mom and dad and you get annoyed and you get frustrated, it's like, right? So that's where the meditation comes in. That's where all the other parts of the Eightfold Path come in. You need to learn how to do this and implement it, right? Okay. So I'm going to end class here. I don't see any questions anywhere else. By just thanking oh, you have a question back there? Yeah. What's your question, ma'am? We have plenty of microphones.
Hi, I'm Rebecca from China, and I have a question about how can we, just you mentioned before, we can train our mind to learn, let it go, but I wonder how to learn.
Okay, so the thing that you need to learn is the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching. I teach this in all the foundational programs. That's why I started at the beginning. I said, usually people have already established a foundation before they come into this program, and it's fine that this is your first time here. There's plenty of people that are like that they haven't yet learned the Eightfold. The Eightfold Path is, you just turn it off. You're sitting right by the speaker. The Eightfold Path is the core central teaching. And the way that people would normally start learning is they would start with the first book. The very first book is going to walk you through developing your foundation. And then we have programs to be able to help you so that I can teach you how to develop this foundation. You can get this book by downloading it from the website for free. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon if your country has access to Amazon. So you would like to gradually start reading and gradually start attending the classes. And even back in your own country, you can attend live stream, because I live stream. There's people online now from all over the world that are attending our class. So you can continue to learn. And where you can't attend live, you can listen to the recording, and then you can learn slowly but surely. And you can get help from me through asking questions in class, through posting in our Facebook group, and I'm the only one who will answer that. You can send me private messages and I will answer you, or you can schedule personal guidance where we either meet in person or we meet online through Zoom, because it's one thing to learn in a class, but it's another thing to relate it to your specific challenges in your day-to-day life. So gradually learning through the books and through the courses, and then getting help from a teacher, where a teacher is kind of like a tour guide, pointing out for you the things that you need to learn, but you're responsible for your own education, and you need to be able to actively walk forward and learn and grow and develop. And as you do, a teacher is here to support you in that growth, pointing out to you the things that you need to learn and understand. So if you start with the book, start with the foundational classes like Sunday and Wednesdays, that's what you'll need to be able to do, because you'll learn that Eightfold Path, and that's what you'll need to learn, reflect on, and practice on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, you're welcome. I saw some other people grab microphones, so whoever would like to ask questions, feel free.
Wait.
Somebody would like to go? Up to you guys. I'm not sure. The ones who have mics on, though, if you guys could just turn those off and just have one mic on. Otherwise, we're going to get a bunch of feedback in the sound.
It's all about pleasant and the pain, but how about the fear? To be specific, I read a comment online that someone feels some little kid scratched her feet at night. That frightened me last night. I'm so frightened that I can't go to sleep. So how can I get rid of that fear, that frighten?
The underlying cause of fear is the same problem. Fear is a painful feeling, and it's coming from craving, desire, attachment. The mind is wanting things to be a certain way. So, for example, if somebody was afraid of spiders, they're craving permanence. They don't want to see a spider. They're craving to never see a spider. That's the permanence that they're craving. But the fact is that we live in a world with many different beings. They're going to see a spider from time to time. So you need to be able to work with the Eightfold Path, because that Eightfold Path is going to train the mind to eliminate its cravings, desires, attachments. And that's what you need to learn. The same thing that I shared with this young lady and with all of you guys, you're going to need to do those same things. So start with the book, attend the classes, train your mind, because that's what's going to eliminate all the cravings, desires, attachments, and get away from those painful feelings, because fear is a painful feeling to experience, but it's coming from the same underlying cause, which is craving, desire, attachment. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Why? It's actually here. How do I put it? So like you mentioned it before, if someone make you happy, then it's not unconditional love, right? So like, how do you identify love for a stranger, like the opposite sex? If it's not the person that make you the most happy, if not because he's handsome, or rich, or smart, or sexy, I mean, how do I know, like, you know, someone supposed to be, or the person, you know, I fell in love with, and that's true love.
Yeah, the way that you know true love is through somebody's actions, right? If somebody actually loves you, that means they have a genuine interest in seeing you be well, and their actions are going to show that. Where, like, say you want to go running and you want to go on a run and you want to go exercise, and let's just say this person's like, no, don't go exercise, stay home with me. This is their craving and their attachment, and they're holding on to you, and they're trying to force you or control you to do the things that they want you to do. So you would see these genuine interests in seeing you be well. And then if you were practicing true love with that person, you would have a genuine interest in seeing them be well as well. So oftentimes your relationships, particularly the ones you're in now, they're going to have craving, desire, attachment in them. And you might actually be seeing that as love. Like if you went away on a trip and your boyfriend or girlfriend said, oh, I miss you so much, you might think, they love me. That's not actually the love that's causing them to miss you. What's causing them to miss you is their craving. They want you to be there with them permanently. And when you're with them, they feel happy. And when you're away, they feel sad. This is the attachment that they're forming their feelings based on you. They might have love in there, but it's polluted with these cravings, desires, attachments. You might see this with your parents. Your parents probably have unconditional love for you. They would like to see you be well. But they have these expectations where they might be trying to control you to do things a certain way. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. Get a boyfriend, get a girlfriend, get a husband, get a wife, get kids, get this job, get that job, get this. Your parents might be putting their expectations on you. So underneath of there, they have unconditional love, that they have a genuine interest in seeing you be well, but it's polluted with these expectations of them trying to control you. So when people understand the wisdom of what true love is, and they understand how to eliminate cravings, desires, attachments, you can get that craving, desire, attachment out of the way, and the true love will shine through. And what you'll see with someone who's practicing true love is they won't put any expectations on you. They won't be trying to control you. Whatever you would like to do, it's up to you. They're not going to try to control you. And then they're just going to make decisions based on their own life. So if, for example, when you guys come here, you don't see any rules that say you have to wear a certain type of clothes, or that you have to sit in a certain way, or you have to do things a certain way. I just let you do whatever you like to do. It's your life. It's your decisions. I don't want anything from you. You'd like to get up and leave and go somewhere else? Okay, get up and leave, go somewhere else. You like to use the bathroom? Use the bathroom. You like to sit on the floor? Fine. You like to sit in a chair? Great. Anything, right? You like to come by live stream? It's up to you. It's anything you'd like to do. So you would see somebody who has true love for you. They're not going to put expectations on you. They're not going to try to control you. They're going to just be comfortable with you making your own decisions. And they're not going to be forming their feelings based on you. But this is very rare in the world because not very many people understand what true love is. So there might be true love in somebody's mind, but they still have these cravings and expectations that are getting in the way of you experiencing that and feeling that.
But I mean, like, if you're attracted to someone, you're going to be attracted to, like, the appearance or, something special or good about this person, right? Then does it pollute true love?
Yes, that's the craving. That you see this person looks a certain way, or they have a certain amount of finances, or they have a certain intellect, and now you want that. That's the craving, desire, attachment. So in a relationship where you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
But there's going to be a trigger, right? I mean, like, it's a stranger, let's say this boy, and then I somehow attracted to him. Mm-hmm. Then there is this trigger. It's going to be like one thing or the other. Maybe his smell, you know what I mean? Like, not wealthy, but other things.
That's your craving, desire, attachment.
But without that trigger, how do you fall in love with someone?
You're not falling in love or out of love with people. That's what you know now. That's what you're thinking now. That's the craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. If you had true love, you would just love everybody. You would have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well.
No one, like, no such thing. Like, one person is special, like, for you too. So I just love everyone the same.
Yes.
But choose one to live with.
Right. You're going to have a certain partner, perhaps. You're going to make a decision to have a certain committed, loyal relationship. Uh-huh. But your role in that relationship is different. I love my son and I love my wife equally the same as I love you.
Wow.
My role is different.
Okay.
But I would like to see you be well just as much as I'd like to see them be well. I have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. If my son needs to go to school and I need to pay his tuition to go learn for a year at school, I'm going to pay that. And that's my responsibility. That's what I'm doing as a father, and I'm choosing to do that. For you, that's not my role in your life. But I still have an interest in seeing you be well. And if I can help you with whatever it is that I'm helping you with, I will help you. But my role isn't to pay your tuition at school. But that's not the love. The paying the tuition isn't the love. That's just an action that I'm choosing to do because of the love. And the action that I'm choosing to do here with you because of my love for you is to share the teachings of the Buddha with you. Because if I can help you get to peace and joy, that's the most loving thing that I could ever do for you, is to help you understand the wisdom of how to get to that peaceful and joyful mental state. So the love is the same, a genuine interest in seeing you be well and seeing my son be well. But my role is different in both of these people's lives.
So love is love. It's not like I love this person more than I love that person, right?
No, that's not love. That's craving, desiring, attached, and I have expectations of this person, and they're meeting more of my expectations. So I will say I love this person more. This person over here, they're not meeting as much as my expectations. So I will say, or someone will say, I don't love that person as much, because they're not meeting as many of your expectations. That's the whole false reality. That's the whole ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom that the mind has. But when you cultivate wisdom of what true love is, and you practice true love, you'll love everybody equally. But you'll have different roles in people's lives. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome, sir. You still have a question? I saw you grabbed a mic. Yeah, didn't you have a microphone? Yeah.
I just want to ask a very realistic questions. How can we face or deal with the desire to the power, or desire to the money, or desire to success, maybe desire to better than others? I mean, I feel like this is the human nature. So how can we deal with it?
That's the human nature in the unenlightened state, that the mind's going to chase and chase and chase. It's going to want power, but there's never enough. It's going to want money, but it's never enough. As soon as it gets here, it wants more and wants more and wants more. That's the craving, desire, attachment. But if you were on the other side, where you could care less about whether you had money or not, you're not going to be peaceful and joyful there either, because you're not going to be able to afford food and clothing and shelter and things like that. So what the Buddha is teaching you to do is come to the middle, where you gradually work towards your goals and objectives. That you know, like, hey, you need money in your life, so let me get some skills, let me get some training, let me develop my ability to go to work and perform this role. And now I'm going to make this money, but I'm not going to form my feelings on the money. Do you see the difference? Yeah. That's what you would like to get to, is that you gradually work towards acquiring assets and financial wealth, but you don't form your feelings based on it, because otherwise you're just going to keep chasing and chasing and chasing, and there's never enough. All right. So I think you guys are that's all the questions. Let me see if we have anything online. Yep, that's everything here as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is just end class by thanking all of you guys for coming to learn. Thank you for being interested to learn the teachings of the Buddha. As you guys would like to learn more, you're more than welcome to come here. We have classes on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Normally we have classes Monday through Friday on different weeks as well, but because of the construction downstairs, we just kind of brought our schedule down to Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday for this month of December. And you'll be able to attend either here or online. You can get these books. Our website's a great central hub to be able to access all these teachings. And you can always come talk to me if you're curious about how to get plugged in, or if you're curious about where to get started, or any of these other things, you can come let me know. I'll be pleased to help you. Tomorrow in our group learning program, we're going to be in chapter 2 of our first book, which is titled Why Study Gotama Buddha's Teachings. So if you guys would like to come tomorrow, I'll be teaching that. We'll be doing meditation and then going into that. Then on Wednesday, we'll be doing loving kindness meditation together, which is to eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, frustration, irritation, annoyance, even negative self-talk within your own mind. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have the slightest dislike for other people. Right now, if somebody meets your expectations, you might like them. But if they're not meeting your expectations, you will dislike them because they're not doing what you want them to do. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you can just enjoy being with anybody and everybody because you don't have expectations of them. So loving kindness meditation is going to help you to cultivate this love and this kindness that we've been talking about, where there's this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. So we're going to be doing that on Wednesday. So have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you next time. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.